The Menopause Mixer is a great way for women to understand and embrace the journey of menopause, understanding our right to be informed about what is happening during this magnificent feminine evolution. Look, learn, and know these 5 rights as we get into tonight's episode of the Menopause Mixer. And then, if you haven't already, join us on Facebook in the Black Women in Menopause support group. Hey, everybody. So thank you for joining us for tonight's Menopause Mixer. As you know, I'm your host, Delana Watkins, and tonight we are joined by an amazing guest, Miss Megan Dahlman of Vigeofit. Megan, did I say that right?
It's Vigeo, but we can play
Vigeo.
with
See?
all sorts of sounds. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. I'm so glad I asked you that because I was sounding it out. So Vigeofit. And let me just tell you, I started following this amazing woman on Instagram. So you guys know I use all social media platforms. Facebook is where I live. Instagram is where I sometimes tend to hide out. And then TikTok is where I very seldom go, but seem to be discovered there. So we are live right now in our Black Women in Menopause support group and live on YouTube as Menopause Unveiled. And tonight's guest is going to talk about some of those things that I find that you all tend to kind of shy away from. And that is wanting to move your body. Sometimes I feel like I'm not going to say like the E word, which is exercise, because when I do that, it gets even worse. Everybody's like, oh, I don't want to exercise. So instead, I just say move, like the
Yeah.
M word instead, because you guys don't know what it means to not exercise, but instead just move. So Megan, I want you to join our conversation tonight. And see, she's got her arms out and she's like showing you guys, like, I'm fit, I'm ready. If you need to, I will go in the background and do some exercise if I need to. Okay. So I'm
There
gonna
we go.
a little bit, but I promise you she won't do any exercises unless we ask her for some demos. So Megan is 17 years of training professionally, and she's become the sought after trainer for women over 40 who want to feel their physical best for years to come. That's all of us. So raise your hands, guys. Give me some comments, some emotions if that's you, right? These are like your best years where you want to be able to move your body. And so, again, you all follow me long enough to know that that's like my number one thing. I'm always like, get up, move, even do physically fit commercial breaks, squat when you're putting clothes in the washing machine, like you got to move. So this is Megan's specialty. So she's going to echo some sentiments for me tonight. Megan's got my back with a degree of exercise in science. That's, again, a testament to her and her understanding of knowing what we're about to talk about. So, without further delay, Megan, jump right in here and tell me what is one of the best things that these ladies need to do to keep it moving over 40?
Well, you just said it. I mean, we just got to start moving. I mean, really, that's the beginning of it all. I think sometimes we overcomplicate it in our minds. Like we have to have all the perfect pieces in place before we can actually take action. And really, it can be so much simpler than that and far more basic. So that's the biggest takeaway I want every woman to hear tonight is that it doesn't have to look perfect. It doesn't have to check every single box perfectly for you to actually take action. So if you can just simply move your body somehow, it gets the ball rolling. And that's why we're here. And that's why I love so much working with women in midlife, because we've kind of have those years of the quick fix mentality behind us.
Mhm.
We have more wisdom and perspective, and we're willing to do something with a little bit more patience. And I think all those years of wanting something now, like I just want it right now. If I'm going to do a workout, I want to be able to come home from the workout and stand on the scale and see 5 pounds off. Like we're kind of, we're past that point, hopefully in our personal journey. And so when it comes to just moving, just getting the ball rolling. It's far more to do with what you do today. Is this something that you can still see yourself doing a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now? Can you see that? And if the answer is yes, and it feels good, then we're winning. Then that's exactly, I am all here for that, for sure.
See? Exactly. That you said it. So there's two things that you like me just listening is the fact that I know for me personally, when I started going through the transition, I got to a point of frustration when the things that I would do in my 30s wasn't working in my 40s. And I'm
Yeah.
like frustrated that, like, wait a minute, I normally could run, I could jog, like so I got stuck in this whole thing of being frustrated that not only was my body like betraying me, is how I felt. And why isn't things moving the way they used to? And why am I not able to now maintain the weight? So we're going to dig into that in a little bit as well, because
Yeah. Yeah.
two things that you just said that in midlife, we tend to kind of do more mental gymnastics instead of physical movement. Mm, that's a tweetable. Oh, mhm, yeah, mental gymnastics instead of physical movement. We say all these things in our head, we get so stuck. But I wanna take a moment to say hello to a few of you who are joining us in the group. Thank you so much for joining us live. We've got Tracy, Patricia, Net, Marsha, Darlisha. Thank you guys for joining us. Any questions that you have, drop them in the chat. I am monitoring the chat tonight as I do not have my hefty assistant with me tonight. She usually carries the heavy load for me while I just show up and look cute on screen. Okay. So today I'm like doing the whole thing, but it's all good. I enjoy having the dialogue along with interacting with you guys in the chat. So make sure you drop any questions that you have for me in the chat. So one of the questions that I wanted to ask you really quickly before we kind of delve into like the meat of everything tonight, Megan, is this. What is one of the biggest perceived barriers? Because I always like to put that perceived in there, right? Almost like proven innocent until proven guilty. It's like the perceived barrier that most women have about starting to do any type of movement or any type of like program. What is one of the perceived barriers that most women in midlife have?
Well, I think you touched on it a little bit, and that's like timing. I
Mhm.
think as we get older, things it doesn't mean that things aren't working. It just means that things can take a little bit longer for the
Yes.
same results to happen. And most often, we give up long before things
Mhm.
have a chance to actually take hold.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think that's one of the biggest perceived barriers is just that it's going to take too long or it's not going to work at all. And that's simply not true. And so we kind of have to get through our minds like, okay, what is actually some realistic expectation
Mhm.
guidelines? And I love to kind of lay these out for women because they can have a better understanding of better benchmarks to look for when they're actually beginning a fitness program. I like to call it the rule of threes. So generally when you start a plan or you start a fitness routine of anything that you're like, I'm going to just stick with this and be consistent with this one thing, it usually takes 3 weeks to feel the physical changes happening inside of your body. Like let's just take like drinking water for example. So let's say like I'm just going to start drinking water and stay like adequately hydrated each day. The first few days you're not really going to feel any different. But if you continue to do that consistently for 3 weeks, by the 3-week mark you're going to be like, wow, my joints don't feel so stiff and achy. I feel a little bit more energetic. I feel more clear minded. Like all of the good, healthy feelings start to float to the surface. Same with doing like some core exercises. So on the fitness side of it, like it could take 3 weeks to actually feel your core engaging. Now, that's not the same as seeing things changing.
Yeah.
And the next benchmark that we can wait for is the 3-month benchmark. And it usually takes until 3 months of doing that thing consistently to actually see visible results from that thing. So if you say, let's take that core thing again, suddenly at about the 3-month mark, you realize, wow, I can I can see my posture improving. There is a visible difference in the way that I'm standing and carrying my body. I can actually visibly see some muscles there now that were not there before. I felt the benefits of having a stronger core at that 3 week mark, and those just kind of kept compounding. But it's right now at the 3 months of doing this thing consistently where I'm realizing I can see the changes. So I think it's really helpful to have a clear understanding of how long things actually change. And so we can not give up hope. Like, don't judge whether or not something is working in the first 3 days. Like, we can't do that. We do that all the time. Give it time to simmer. And honestly, it's probably not going to be easy until the final benchmark, which is 3 years, which sounds so far out there, but 3 years is around the point where it becomes your identity, where
Yeah.
it's you're now the person who trains their core every day, and
Mhm.
she doesn't know who she is without it, you know? So it's
Absolutely.
helpful to have those healthy benchmarks along the way.
Right. And I like that you said that because I always try to I think relatively, because we started out this conversation by saying how not just during the transition, right? Not just during midlife,
Mhm.
but it seems more evident at midlife that we really want to see
Yeah.
these things happen like kind of microwave style. But being able to see benchmarks has really been what has helped me. Not that I haven't
Mhm.
all along, but definitely so during midlife. I've been just like, okay, I am definitely going to be consistent with this for 3 weeks. And I always use the benchmark of saying that it becomes a habit, then it becomes discipline, and then it lifestyle. So basically that same benchmark, which is that
I
three
like that.
months, 30 days habit, 60 days discipline,
Yeah.
60 days lifestyle. So think of it in terms of that, or 90 days lifestyle,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, 30, 60, 90. So again, you're looking at those benchmarks, and it goes back to the old adage that you just said, how you will feel the difference before you
Yeah.
actually, what, Megan?
See it.
See the difference.
Yeah. Yep.
You're gonna feel it before
Absolutely.
you see it. So stop getting on the scale so often, right? Because that can be so discouraging. So talk about that a
Mhm.
little bit as well, because I think um, that we tend to want to do that because that's something that's visual for us,
Mhm.
as a determinant as to whether or not what we're doing is working. And so talk a little bit about that as well, because I know that that can tend to make some people want to throw their scales out the window.
I know. I know. We have spent years as women just letting that little scale dictate our value
Mhm.
so much, and I think still having an emotional attachment to it, even in midlife, is really, really common. And I think it's really helpful to understand that when you stand on a scale, it's weighing everything in your body. It's weighing how heavy your hair is. It's weighing how, which can be very, very heavy. It's weighing how dense your bones are. And I don't know about you, but
Mhm.
I want as dense of bones as possible for
Absolutely.
as many years as possible. So if I could put on 3 more pounds of bone in the next
Mhm.
10 years, sign me up. It's weighing how much muscle you have. It's weighing so many things. So when you stand on a scale, you have to try to remind yourself that this is not showing me the full picture of
Mhm.
how truly healthy and fit my body actually is.
Right.
And one mental exercise I like to challenge people with is if you embark on a really good, healthy fitness routine where you have your nutrition and your fitness and your sleep and your stress just all in a really good place, and you can say, I feel more energetic, I feel
Mhm.
trim, I don't have any joint pain anymore, I'm not limited in any capacity, I feel completely fit and healthy, all of my blood markers are fantastic. And you can say that all of those boxes got checked, but the scale didn't move.
Mm.
Would it still be worth it?
Yeah,
Would
absolutely.
you still do, and that's the answer I would love to hear, and I think when we kinda boil it down to that and be like, "Look at this long list of things that's changing in your life, and
Mhm.
maybe the only thing that didn't change was just that silly little number on the scale," just throw the darn thing away. Like, it's just not it's not showing us how healthy you are and how you feel in your body at
Right.
all.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can attest to that, honestly, as I said earlier, how the scale just started going in an opposite direction for me. for someone who for so long weighed pretty much, the same and exercised and worked out and ate the same, that
Yeah.
during midlife, things were shifting. And it took for me to really sit down and look at the blood markers, the hormone balance, the gut health. Like it was just like, okay, what are we doing differently? And you have to
Yeah.
remember what worked then is definitely not going to work now because it's a transition. We just said this is a midlife transition. So just like with anything else, things change during a transition. So
Yeah.
you have to make certain that you're taking that into consideration when you're talking about your physicality as well, your
Yeah.
physical health, your physical part of the makeup of what you're doing as well.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna shift gears just a little bit. So this is like high level stuff that we're talking about, right? Because we're just trying to prepare you guys for what it is that we specifically want to talk about, and that is specific exercises or a specific approach to types of exercises. Because I know that's what half of you guys are tuning in for is what do I need to do? I'm going to start this plan tomorrow. I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. Megan, show me what I need to do. So I know that's what you were tuning in for. Probably all thinking, okay, you guys, this all sounds good. Get to the juicy part, right? Like get to the part we really
Right.
want to know. So I'm going to take this time though to welcome a few of you that joined us as well live in the group as well as on our YouTube channel. So welcome Terry, Sandra, Perry, and Sandra Wyckoff, as well as Wahida. Thank you for joining us live. If you have any questions, ladies, make sure that you drop them into the chat. I will make sure to get them to our special guest, Megan, so that she can answer them if they are not answered during our discussion tonight, during the mixer. So again, thank you for joining us live. So Megan, a couple of exercises. We don't want to give them too much, but just
Yeah. There are about 1,000 and 7,200 exercises out there. So it really depends on, what your goals are, what you're aiming for. But I like to break it up into, are you just getting started? Are you just getting the ball rolling? Look at your routine right now. Are you barely active? Are you generally quite sedentary right now? Is that kind of where you're at? Maybe you used to be fit a long time ago. You used to work out, and your brain is like, I should probably go back and do that one workout again. Don't do that. You're in a different season of life right now. So, the best thing to do when you're just getting started from a place of like scratch is that you want to set yourself up for long-term success here. So it's really helpful to start with something that feels familiar, actually. Things that are unfamiliar, where you have to learn something, requires a lot more motivation. And so in the beginning, when you just don't have that much motivation to begin with, like we don't want things that require a lot of motivation. It takes significantly more motivation to do 45 burpees a day than to go for a 10-minute walk, right? So start with something that's familiar. And for most women, it's just going for a walk, getting into a routine of doing something familiar that feels good. And then on top of that, what I usually say is let's also add in one posture correcting stretch, because most of us could really use some posture benefits, and add in one core strengthening exercise. So a great posture correcting stretch, one of my favorite ones is doing what I like to call cactus arms. So just standing up really straight or sitting up straight. You can do this standing too. Just squeezing your thumbs. So thumbs are pointed behind you and your elbows should be slightly lower than your shoulders. You're just going to squeeze your elbows back and your thumbs back as far as you can, kind of pushing your chest through. And then we're going to bring it all the way the other way. So you actually round your shoulders. So we kind of work on this big mobility and it feels so good. It starts to get the blood flowing and all of those posture muscles that have been sitting like this all day long. And it really starts to open you up and it feels really good. Then we can also do a simple core strengthening exercise because we want to do something that feels like it's getting us stronger and that feels so good to have things activated. The best thing to start with is a basic bridge. All of us could probably use stronger glutes. So just laying on the floor, putting your heels down on the floor, so you're on your back on the floor, just squeezing your glutes and pushing your hips up is just our basic bridge. And doing that every day in conjunction with like a posture correcting stretch, those two things are going to feel like, okay, I'm doing something and it feels really good. We want to stay in the vein of something that feels good, especially when you're just starting. And I love how you said that earlier, where we don't even really want to call them exercises or even a workout, because we all have those negative associations with exercising and the words workout. So let's not even use that vocabulary. Let's use words like my feel good movements or
Exactly.
my little routine that helps me feel good. Like trying to almost change our entire perspective around what we're doing. So just by doing those things can really start to get the ball rolling. And you'll be like, okay, what else you got? What else can I do? Because this feels really
Exactly.
good. Mm-hmm.
There you go. Clap it up. I seen some claps in there. Listen, I put it's on the ticker. Begin with walking and then add some posture correcting exercise. Listen, and then add, what did you say? Core stability?
Core.
Yes,
Yeah.
core. So easy. And guess what?
Yeah.
None of them require equipment, and it doesn't
No.
require you to go to a gym.
No.
Come on. I should have a whole
Yeah.
bunch of like Wahoos, Yahoos, hallelujah. And thank you, Delana and Megan, for that. Okay.
Yeah.
Listen,
Yeah.
start with that and it will make you feel so much better, right? Because again, for you, it's all about what am I doing versus what am I not doing. So even
Yeah.
if you just start with a simple walk, and again, you determine how far, how fast, and how long. And so it's going to be decided by you, not by us saying, or what you see on Dr. Google or Wikipedia, where you go on and say, how much exercise for the woman in transition? Okay, you're going to get the same carve out cookie cutter response to it, which should be, what is it, Megan? 30 to 60 minutes a day for a total of
Yeah,
two
that's
hours
what
and
it
30.
is. Yeah, and it's so overwhelming and we're like,
It's
"Okay,
scary.
what exactly is that supposed to look like?
Mhm,
I'm doing
mhm,
0 minutes and I have to somehow get to 5 hours. How on earth am I supposed to get there? And I don't know what to do when I walk into the gym." No, 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 no. It's like, yes, that
mhm.
might be our finish line. That might be where we end up. We all know that one of the most important things that you can be doing in transition is strength training.
Mhm,
And that is an eventual thing. We
mhm.
have to lay a really good foundation of just routine and some body awareness and body control. And I usually say to women that are just starting out, do not put weights in your hands for the first 3 months.
Yeah.
You have got to learn how to just control your body, do a proper squat, do things with good mechanics, know how to do that bridge well, know how to control your core, how to breathe, when to inhale, when to exhale, how to balance. Like there's so many things you can do
Mhm.
that are zero equipment whatsoever before
Right.
you ever put any equipment in your hands. And yes, we're going to move in that direction where eventually, you're lifting weights and you're pushing and you're really
Exactly.
working that muscle mass. That doesn't mean that's where you start. And how you start really determines your longevity with this. Are you still going to be doing this a year from now? And I sure hope so. And so, how you get the ball rolling really kind of dictates what that's going to look like. So, we want to start out really easy, like almost stupidly easy,
Right.
because
Yeah.
it's like a no brainer.
And
Yeah.
that's the point. That's the point, which is going to lead me into my next question of this. And like you said, just start out really slow. Because again, I
Mhm.
think when we have to think about something too much, we end up taking the road like the path of least resistance. And so
Yeah.
then we won't do anything. Just like what I said about looking up on Dr. Google about types of exercise and how long I should be exercising and what should I, it becomes like noise. So it
Yeah.
becomes too much instead of spending that energy to do the simple things like what we're talking about, right? And so tonight's menopause mixer is really meant to give you permission. If you need it, Delana and Megan are giving it to you to just start and start slow. And like
Yeah.
she said, almost stupidly slow, like really
Yeah.
slow. Not saying that you're stupid, but just like start really slow and not look on Instagram or TikTok or whatever and look for
Yeah.
like exercises for women. Don't do that. That's like,
Yeah.
no, that's not what we want
It's
you to do.
no, it's so discouraging.
Yeah.
And honestly, it says nothing about what you're fully capable of. And one of
Mhm.
my favorite phrases is this quote. It says your capability does not always equal your capacity.
Yes.
So I
Mhm.
know we all feel like superwomen, and we all have maybe in a rear view mirror like that one moment in life where we were really fit and really in a routine, like really consistent, like that moment in life where we look back and think that was when I was in my best shape ever. That does
Mhm.
not, like, yes, you are like mentally capable of that. You've proven that to yourself already. You are a strong superwoman, but that doesn't mean that you have the capacity to
Mhm.
do that at this point in your life, and that is okay. And
Absolutely.
and the gap between those is grace. You have to give yourself grace
Ooh.
for all those, like the gap between your capacity and your capability, and say that is okay.
Yep.
Today I have the capacity to go for a 5-minute walk, and I am good with that.
Yep.
And yeah, and if all you say is, like, it's only good enough if it's a 45-minute long, like, HIIT workout, you're not gonna do it. And, like,
Nope.
3 weeks are gonna go by and you're like, "Once again, I'm not working out."
Not
It's like,
doing it.
how about,
Yeah.
yeah, what if in that amount of time, in those 3 weeks, you were just doing a 5-minute walk, you were doing one posture
Exactly.
correcting exercise and a core exercise? That would have, like,
Mhm.
led to so much more.
Exactly. Ooh, girl, you're hitting all the hot buttons today, Megan, okay? I just want you to know, like, all the hot buttons. Where's that
Good.
button? Just hitting, and so I'm seeing it in the comments. They're all like, "Yep, that's me. I'm guilty. Gone girl. Awesome advice," is what, is in the chat, and I put it up on the screen. So, again, Megan and Delana in tonight's Menopause Mixer is giving you permission to start small. Start
Yes.
slow.
Yes.
Start where you are again and not think of it as being, well, you all know, I always say the E word, exercise or like a workout. You're just moving, okay?
Yeah.
Minnow
Yeah.
movements. Minnow movements.
Love it.
Start
Yeah.
where you are. Mindset. So we talked a little bit about mindset in the very, very beginning. And I know, and I had even mentioned what I always say, which is mental gymnastics, how
Yeah.
we can really just come up with, and I'm not going to say come up with as if we intentionally make excuses, but I think, again, what happens is, um, as the new phrase is out here, life just lifes or life is lifing. So that
Yeah.
does tend to happen. And we all have these roles and responsibilities that we're committed to. But at the end of the day, there is a certain level or certain mindset that we need to have to stay motivated, to be consistent. So, what do you do with your group? Because I also want you to talk about that as well in the answering this
Mhm.
question
Mhm.
about your group that you have um, to help women stay motivated or have that
Yeah.
motivated mindset. So, talk to us a little bit about that.
Here's the thing with motivation. Motivation, it's an emotion that we feel based on our environment, based on our circumstances. It's kind of like happiness or sadness or anger or excitement. We kind of create these emotions as a response to what's going on around us. So often at the very beginning of the year, we get highly motivated. That's a really good example of a time when we kind of react to our environment and feel those levels of emotion. But just like any other emotion, it's going to ebb and flow. You're going to have moments of high motivation and a lot of moments of low motivation. That is normal, that's natural. So your goal should not be to be perpetually motivated. And I think that's what we're always chasing is I want to try to figure out how to stay motivated. You can't. You just can't. It's like expecting yourself to stay perpetually happy. It's not normal. It's not human. And so then what we need to make sure of in order to create consistency with your habit is to have a routine in place that is motivation proof. Okay. Where it is so simple and doable that you can do it regardless of where your motivation levels are at the moment. If you wake up one day and you're like, I didn't sleep very well last night, right? I don't have good energy. I've got brain fog just blanketing me. I don't and the workout you pull up that you're supposed to do for the day is a 60-minute long HIIT workout. Oh boy, like your motivation is in the tank and you have to do something that requires high levels of motivation, it's not going to happen. So what we want to make sure of is that you have a routine that when you open it up and your motivation is really, really low, you can look at it and say like, I can totally still do that. It's just 5 movements. I know they feel really good. It takes 10 minutes to do. I'm absolutely still going to do it. And that is how you create consistency. Consistency needs to be independent of your motivation levels. And so you've got to come out of the gate with a routine that can withstand no matter what your motivation is in any given moment.
I love that. Say that part again about consistency needs to be independent of your motivation levels. I love that.
It must be independent of your motivation levels.
Yes.
And that is one thing that
Mhm.
in my signature course that I teach is we come out of the gate with things so easy and so doable. And what I love is bringing women 2 weeks into the course, 3 weeks into the course, and them being delighted to say, I have never been this consistent ever in my life.
Mm.
And I'm proving to myself that I actually am capable of consistency. I always just tried to
Yes.
come out of the gate way too hard. And you're showing me that I can gradually build up and do something that is making a difference for my health. And
Mhm.
I'm consistent. And that feeling of knowing that you can be consistent with fitness and nutrition, even
Mhm.
that is empowering. And
That
it
is a
gives
high.
you,
What are you talking about, girl? That is a
yes,
high. Listen,
yeah,
all of y'all need to be hitting like that love, love, heart, heart emojis. That is a high. You all know that for yourself. If you can consistently do some type of movement, like she said, whether it's 5 movements that you're doing in a 10-minute span versus a 60-minute hit workout, which again makes you feel like, crap if you don't do it because you're beating yourself up because you didn't show up for it. And it's bad enough that your motivation is in the toilet. To do 5 movements, to do them like in a 10-minute span, that your consistency pretty much overrode that and wasn't relying upon your motivation, that right there is golden.
yeah.
Showing
And
up for
guess what that does to your motivation? It actually dials it up. So it can act you showing up
that.
when
Mhm.
everything is against you.
Yep.
When you have all of these obstacles like almost fighting you and you're like, I'm going
Mhm.
to do it anyway because it's so easy and doable, that will actually ratchet your motivation up a couple of
Oh,
notches. And so
definitely.
you get a little bit of that like boost, not
Mhm.
that we're relying on it anymore, right? We're not
Right.
but it does feel good to feel
Oh,
motivated.
definitely.
So
Definitely.
so that's what's fun too, is that you get that little bit of that motivation boost and you're like, "Cool, I can do that again. That felt
Mhm.
really good, and now I'm motivated to show up and do it again tomorrow."
Right. And I like that you referenced, I know for sure that most of these women in here that are, whether they're in perimenopause, went through menopause, and they're now postmenopausal, have dealt with the insomnia,
Mhm.
the brain fog, you know, all of that. When you look at the litany of symptomology that you can experience through the transition, you can check off any 1, 2, maybe 3 of those things that would just kind of deter you from wanting to do any type of physical
Yeah.
movement, to say, not going to be bothered with that. But
Yep.
again, if it's not reliant upon you having to do that and you show up for it, come on, we're winning
Well,
easily.
and here's where the cycle like, you get that wheel rolling because we know inherently that if I was more physically active during the day, it
Mhm.
would impact my sleep capacity at
Yes,
night. It would impact my clarity.
absolutely.
It would impact my mood. But so often, like, we can't get that wheel to shift
Mhm.
because, like, we can't get ourselves to do the workout because we're so
Right.
depressed and fatigued and lethargic. And so
Uh-huh.
the thing that has to get the wheel to move has to be so easy. And so often the one thing that you can have some control over because the insomnia, the brain fog, that stuff, it feels so far out of your control. But showing up and doing one posture correcting stretch, one core exercise, working on your core a little bit, those
Mm,
things feel like, okay, that is in my control. And I can trust that that's going to start to impact these other things that feel so far out of my control.
absolutely. And I can honestly attest to that. You guys have heard me say
Mhm.
this, quite a bit, quite often. Not only just in the Menopause Mixer and the videos that I try to post, to not only show you that it truly, in fact, can be done, that it is something that you're not alone in dealing with, again, which is why I say it's part of the community. For you to not feel like you're alone, that also can go towards, again, your mindset, or not understanding and not wanting to be motivated. But as Megan said,
Yeah.
sometimes if you do just that one or two things and you show up, it will help.
Mhm.
Exercising for me in the morning, if I'm not in the gym by a specific time, or if I don't go to the gym and I just do my exercising, I mean, movement here at home, then
Movement.
it sets the tone for not only the remainder of my day, but I am able to sleep so much
Yeah.
better as well. So again,
Yes.
there's a lot of symptoms that we're fighting and a lot of different things that's going on as we're going through the transition. But I promise you, like Megan stated earlier, that consistency and seeing the results and being able to embrace what you're feeling after being
Yeah.
consistent for 3 weeks. I promise you.
Feels so
Mm.
good.
Look at Megan. She's like, "Oh, it feels so good." It's like
It
a
feels so
tall
good.
glass of water. Let me see. Where's my water? Yep. Like
I
drink.
know. I've got my giant thing.
Mhm.
It's ridiculous.
I'm with you. Like drink, and you feel how cool that is going down. That's how you feel when you start doing that exercise for quite
Yes.
some time. Um,
I love it.
Yes, I love it, and I love all the comments, you guys. I'm putting your comments up on the screen, going through it now. Someone said, let's see, who is this? Natasha said, I did a great 12-day challenge, 2 exercises, 12 reps of each. It was easy to do, and I've continued doing it even after the challenge ended. See, perfect. And sometimes,
Yeah.
again, just being part of a group, or just a challenge is always good when it's a healthy challenge and you're wanting to not only challenge yourself to see if you could do it, but you're also up against other people as well who are in the
Yeah.
same um I don't want to say same like situation most often, right? And in this group, it's those of us that are in transition, right, or going through menopause. And so some of the very same experiences, or as I would say, perceived barriers that you may experience, most of us are as well. And if you can think to yourself, okay, somehow she's figured out a way to do it. I have the capability to do the exact same thing. Our situations may be different, and how we approach it may be different, but know that it can be done. So just know that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that's helpful, especially when you know that this is an area in your life that you've struggled with for a long
Mhm.
time, is having a good consistent routine. The more layers of accountability you can have, the better. And you touched on
Mhm.
that just a little bit. And I like to highlight there's 4 different layers of accountability. And if you have all of these 4 things in place, your rate of success goes way up. So the first layer is just having a method of tracking. And it could be as simple as like having your exercises like just printed out and you just like check that off. Like just having something visual that you can see. It doesn't have to be elaborate. It can be, and honestly, the simpler the better. In my courses, the only way we track is, was your movement routine completed today? Yes. Was your nutrition task completed today? Yes. Did you celebrate your victories today? Because that is really important to me. Yes, we check that off. That's all we track. You don't have to write anything else down. So, having some version of tracking, having an accountability partner is very helpful. Someone who is kind of holding you to what you committed yourself to do. Being part of a community, knowing that you're not alone with the larger community is really helpful too. And then having a coach. And I think that's where a lot of us flounder. We don't feel like we just feel a little embarrassed sometimes to hire a coach or to ask for help. But I think it's so important to have someone that can guide you who's not also in the trenches struggling with it along at the same time. And I the power of that, of having someone who is an expert at what they do. I am a professional strength and conditioning coach. If you ask me about exercises, I will I'll know way better than your friend. So hiring someone, getting help, professional help to guide you through the right thing, then you're not having to play this guessing game of am I actually doing the right thing? I don't know. Were those 2 exercises I picked for the last 2 weeks, were they actually good to do? Was it something that actually moved me in the right direction of my goals? I don't know. So having those different layers of accountability is going to ensure that your likelihood of success goes way up.
Perfect. And I was just putting them on the screen just as you were wrapping up so I can make sure I had. So it's the
Yeah, I
method
said them
of tracking.
fast.
Yeah, I may have missed one, but I have method of tracking.
Community was the 4th.
Community, okay, so community, I didn't see
Community.
community, so
Mhm.
method of tracking, accountability partner, a coach, and then community, which you
Yeah.
all are in right now as far as a
Yep.
support group, with community building and, of course, bringing you awesome, speakers and guests to the mixers like Megan to help really answer some questions that you may have, give you another, way of thinking, as well as giving you some pointers
Yeah.
and some tips, and really oftentimes just, confirming or affirming for you what
Yeah.
it is that you're feeling so that again I hear this often and see this and read this often in the group that some women are just really trying to wrap their minds around this transition feeling like there's just not a lot of control and so I think as much as we could do um, to make you feel like you're part of a community will help to alleviate some of that stress for you
Yeah.
and help you to get on track and to get a plan really to get a plan
Yeah.
together. One thing I did want to point out that you said, and I think you mentioned this too, is about accountability partners. So I always, when I talk to my clients, I say, okay, so who's your accountability partner, right? And they, will identify whoever that person is. And I'll say, okay, so if you call them right now and say, well, I don't feel like going for my walk this evening, what would their response be to you?
Yeah.
And if their response is, "Oh, girl, well, don't worry about it. That's because it's cold outside. I wouldn't go walking either." Then that's not an accountability partner for you. Okay. That's
It's
more,
an enabler.
that's an enabler. Okay. You want
Yeah.
someone that's going to remind you of your goal. Like as
Yeah.
soon as you say, "Oh, it's chilly outside. It's windy. It's raining." And you want them to immediately say, "Well, what is your goal?" Remember, your goal was to get up to 7 minutes, to take you back to why they are your accountability partner, right? To kind of give you
Yeah.
some real pointers and take you back to being accountable, not a
Yes.
cheerleader or an enabler who's going to be like,
Right.
"Yeah, girl, I wouldn't go do it either. It's cold as heck outside. It's this, it's that." No, we don't want that. We want, yeah, someone who's going to help you to get to your goal, to help you to, kind of work through and reach your goals. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm gonna take it off screen. So yeah, the fourth one was community. Megan, it has been amazing talking to you. I always, when I'm like really into it, I am doing my mixers and listening and watching the comments. I look up and I'm like, oh my God, it's already been like 45 minutes.
I know, I know. I'll have to wrap up here in just a couple minutes too. I
Yep,
was
we're
telling
done.
Delana
We are
before we
wrapping
hit
up.
record. Yeah, I've
Yeah.
got a middle school choir
Yeah,
concert to go,
I
the
know. I was getting ready
Christmas
to say it's
choir
time for your
concert.
concert.
I
Exactly.
know.
Yep. So what I want you to do though is before you leave us, of course, um, give us your, and I'm going to put it on the screen as well, um, how to reach you, any programs that you
Yes.
have coming up. My viewers and the ladies in the group always love to continue the dialogue or they want more information. So I want them to be able to stay in touch with you. So go ahead and give that out. And I am going to put the website up as
Yes.
well.
So I have a perfect place to get started for free. I mentioned core a lot, and I know a lot of women in midlife are like, I feel like my core is not doing its job. I'm getting a lot of back pain, a lot of hip pain because of this. So I have a free 5-day core tune-up. If you just go to the number 5, 5daycore.com. You can do my free 5-day core tune up. And usually by the end of the 5th day, you're like, I can feel my core muscles. I haven't felt them in a long time. So that is a perfect place to start. And then I know right around the corner is January 1st. And if everything we talked about today is like you're hitting the nail. I don't want to jump out of the gate hard and fast and
Mm-hmm.
face plant on the second week. I want to be consistent. I want to do this better. I want to go slow and steady. My
Right.
Jumpstart 30 program is where you need to be. So that is at vigeofit.com/jumpstart. And we're going to kick off day 1 on January 1st. It's perfect
There
time.
you go. Start
But
out
that
the
is
new year.
available year-round too, if for whatever reason you're not able to join us January 1st. But we're gonna have a wonderful community, and you get
Yes.
to have the coach piece of it and the tracking charts and all the other things. So, yeah.
You guys gotta do it, I'm telling you. I will be, like, in there cheering you on, and I'm gonna post it in the group as
Yes.
well. So now that you have met Megan virtually, you will already kinda jump in there knowing her, knowing that she knows her stuff, okay? She talked about walking and then doing some, core correcting, mm,
Mhm.
posture no,
Yes.
posture correcting core balancing exercises.
Yeah.
So I have it up on the screen, the 5daycore.com, and
Yep.
then, but say it for me.
Vigeofit.com, you have it going on the
I have
bottom.
it there.
If
Yep,
they just go
Regio
/jumpstart.
/jumpstart. If not, I think when I
Yep.
went on there, you could just I think it had it on there, jumpstart. If not,
Yeah.
at the end, put /jumpstart, okay?
Yep.
So, Megan, thank you so
You're
much
so
for
welcome.
joining us tonight. You guys,
Yeah.
yes, everybody, I'm looking at the comments. You guys were amazing. Thank you for your interaction. Thank you for your comments and your questions for tonight's guest. We will be off for the next 2 weeks, although you guys know I'm always live in the group, okay, with everything
Yeah.
carrying on in the group. But the next mixer will be on January the 8th because the next 2 Mondays are holidays. So I look forward to seeing you guys back here on the 8th, Menopause Mixer, outside of me being live in the group. Megan, you were amazing. Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Delina. Thank you.
So hop off because I know that you have a concert to
I
go
got a
to.
choir concert.
Okay.
Thanks, friend.
Mm,
Come meet me, you
you're
guys.
welcome.
Come say hi. Can't wait to meet
Oh,
y'all.
absolutely.
Bye.
All right. See ya.